Look, if you spend any time researching erectile dysfunction online, you know how confusing it gets. Every website wants to sell you pills. Every doctor wants to manage symptoms, but nobody's talking about actually fixing the root cause. Here's what most people don't understand. Erectile dysfunction isn't just about low testosterone. In fact, there are guys with perfectly normal testosterone who still struggle with ED. And there are guys with low testosterone who have zero issues. So what's really going on? Today, I'm going to break down the real mechanism behind erectile dysfunction and then give you 5 simple natural strategies that address the actual problem, not just mask the symptoms. Before we get to the solutions, you need to understand what's actually happening in your body, because once you get this, everything else makes perfect sense. The single most important molecule for erectile function is something called nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide. That's laughing gas. This is nitric oxide, or NO for short. Here's why it matters. Nitric oxide is produced by the cells lining your arteries, your endothelial cells, and nitric oxide does one critical thing. It relaxes and dilates your blood vessels. This is how you get increased blood flow to, well, everywhere it needs to go. Without adequate nitric oxide, your arteries can't relax. Blood flow is restricted, and that's when problems start. Now here's the kicker. Nitric oxide production drops by about 50% by the time you hit age 40. 50%, that's massive. And this explains so much. It explains why erectile dysfunction increases with age. It explains why guys with diabetes struggle, because high blood sugar destroys those endothelial cells that produce nitric oxide. It explains the connection with sleep apnea, stress, even statin drugs. In fact, here's something interesting. You know how Viagra works? It doesn't create erections out of thin air. It works by enhancing the nitric oxide pathways that already exist in your body. So instead of relying on pills, what if we just focused on naturally increasing your body's own nitric oxide production? That's exactly what these 5 strategies do. The first strategy is so simple, you might think I'm joking, but I promise you this is backed by solid science. Start breathing through your nose instead of your mouth. I know, sounds too easy, right? But here's what happens. When you breathe through your nose, your body actually produces more nitric oxide. The sinuses are nitric oxide production factories, but there's more. Nasal breathing increases oxygen release in your blood by up to 20%. How? Because breathing through your nose creates about 50% more resistance than mouth breathing. That resistance is actually beneficial. It helps your body better utilize the oxygen you're taking in. Think about it, you're awake for about 16 hours a day. If you can consciously breathe through your nose during that time, especially during exercise, during stressful moments, even while you're working, you're giving your body a constant boost of nitric oxide. It's literally the easiest intervention you can make, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Start practicing right now. Close your mouth. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts. Out through your nose for 4 counts. Notice how it feels different? That's your body working the way it's supposed to. This one's not surprising, but let me tell you why it works. Because when you understand the mechanism, you're more likely to actually do it. Exercise directly improves the health of your endothelial cells, those cells lining your arteries that produce nitric oxide. Regular movement literally strengthens your vascular system's ability to produce the molecule you need most. But here's the key. You don't need to become a gym rat. You don't need to do intense, grueling workouts. In fact, mild to moderate exercise is perfect. Here's what I want you to do. Combine exercise with nasal breathing. Go for a brisk walk. Do some light cycling. Swim. Do yoga. Whatever you enjoy. But do it while breathing through your nose. When you're not breathing intensively, you can maintain nasal breathing throughout your workout. This gives you a double benefit. You're improving your endothelial cell health and you're boosting nitric oxide production simultaneously. Just 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's it. You don't need to kill yourself in the gym. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Your body can produce nitric oxide on its own, but you can also get the building blocks from food, specifically from dietary nitrates. Now, before you worry, I'm not talking about the synthetic nitrates in processed meats. Those are a different story. I'm talking about natural nitrates from vegetables. The best sources are beets, probably the most concentrated source, spinach, incredibly high in nitrates, kale, another powerhouse, arugula and befullment, often overlooked but fantastic, Swiss chard, if you can find it. Any leafy greens, really. When you eat these foods, your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide. It's a direct pathway. Here's a practical tip. Make a smoothie with beets, spinach, and some berries to mask the earthy taste. Or make a big salad with arugula and kale as your base. Have that a few times a week. You don't need to eat exclusively vegetables. Just make them a regular part of your diet. Even adding one serving of these foods daily can make a measurable difference. And while we're talking about diet, avoid or limit sugar and alcohol. Both of these damage your endothelial cells and reduce nitric oxide production. Sugar especially, it's like pouring acid on the inside of your arteries. This one's huge and most guys completely overlook it. Here's a biological fact. You cannot achieve an erection when you're in a sympathetic nervous system state. That's your fight or flight mode, your stress response. Erections happen when you're in a parasympathetic state. That's your rest and digest mode. That's when you're calm, relaxed, present. This is why men often get erections while sleeping, because during sleep, especially REM sleep, you're deeply parasympathetic. But here's the connection to nitric oxide. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol levels actively suppress nitric oxide production. Stress doesn't just make it harder to get in the mood, it literally blocks the biochemical pathway you need. This also explains why anxiety is so strongly linked to erectile dysfunction. It's not just psychological, it's physiological. So what do you do about it? You need to actively manage stress. And no, I don't mean just relax. I mean implement actual practices, daily meditation or breathing exercises. Even 5 minutes helps. Regular sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time. Time in nature. This legitimately reduces cortisol. Limit news and social media. Constant stress triggers. Talk to someone, whether a friend, partner, or therapist. The goal isn't to eliminate all stress. That's impossible. The goal is to prevent chronic, ongoing stress from becoming your baseline state. Sleep is where everything comes together, and it's probably the most underrated factor in erectile dysfunction. Here's why sleep matters so much. First, nitric oxide is intimately involved in your sleep cycles, especially REM sleep. Poor sleep disrupts nitric oxide production, which further disrupts sleep. It's a vicious cycle. Second, testosterone is primarily produced during deep sleep. If you're not sleeping well, you're not making optimal testosterone. And while testosterone isn't the only factor, it's still important. Third, and this is a big one, 79% of people with sleep apnea have erectile dysfunction. Why? Because sleep apnea causes chronic low oxygen levels, which damages endothelial cells and crushes nitric oxide production. So what do? Get 7 to 9 hours per night, non-negotiable. Keep your room cool and dark, optimal for deep sleep. Avoid screens an hour before bed. The blue light disrupts melatonin. Consider a sleep study if you snore heavily. Sleep apnea is treatable. Practice nasal breathing even while sleeping. Mouth tape if needed. Yes, really. Better sleep doesn't just help with erectile dysfunction. It improves everything: energy, mood, mental clarity, physical recovery. It's the foundation. So let's recap what we've covered. The root cause of most erectile dysfunction isn't low testosterone. It's low nitric oxide. And you can naturally increase nitric oxide through 5 simple strategies. Number 1, breathe through your nose, especially during exercise. Number 2, exercise regularly, moderate intensity, consistent. Number 3, eat nitrate-rich foods, beets, spinach, leafy greens. Number 4, Manage your stress. Find practices that work for you. Number 5, prioritize sleep. 7 to 9 hours every night. None of these are complicated. None of them require prescriptions, but they all work with your body's natural biology instead of against it. This isn't about managing symptoms. This is about fixing the actual problem. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos.